Scotty was talking earlier about the good old days. About 1 million years ago, in those strange days when daily newspapers came out in the middle of the night and they had things called sub-editors who threw rulers at each other. Nobody ever heard of HR. I was a very naughty boy, and I upset the editor because I tended to argue with the editor, which I always thought was the role of a journalist, but I had been a news executive on The Age for some years and I was very naughty, and I discovered how naughty I was when I was banned to the sports pages by the editor of The Age. So for 4 years I became sports editor of The Age. Supposedly a demotion, a punishment, and they were 4 of the best years of my journalistic life. Howard Cosell was an arrogant, pompous, vain, cruel American sports writer. That's how he described himself. He did. He said the sports department was the toy shop of life. I don't agree. I think it's a metaphor for life, and I think it's got a magnificent record in Australian journalism. Harry and Mike Gordon were part of that. I was fortunate enough to know both of them well and work with both of them. There have been many, many more as well. I think sports journalism is a great job because it involves great writing and campaigning and news breaking, and you can upset people and twist the noses that need twisting, and the AFL gets angry at you. All these sort of things are great. Any good journalist loves good sports journalism, even if they're not into sport. That's what the Harry Gordon Award's about, and it's been an honour to be chair of the judges these past 3 years. This year, when we lost Michael, Gary Linnell stepped in at the last moment when Mike died, and both Gary and Mike were sports editors of The Age as well, and Gary, a great sports writer himself. Thank you to Gary Linnell for coming in. Thank you to Louise Evans, the other judge. They both love good writing and good sports journalism and revel in the fact that actually when you're involved in sport, people actually want to know what you're writing about. They tend to be more interested, I found, in that than anything else I've ever worked in. 3 finalists this year, and the prize for the Harry Gordon Sports Journalist of the Year is $10,000. Thank you to the Press Club and Virgin. Greg Bowen from The Age. Now, Greg's been a finalist before. His writing meets a very high standard and he hasn't let it slip. The judges said that his prose and analysis made him stand out again. He was particularly commended for a piece on a bloke called Dustin Martin, who you've probably heard of. A well-worn topic, Dustin Martin, but Greg gave it a very fresh twist and was commended for that. His deadline piece on the Federer-Nadal final was superb work under pressure. And I will give you the 3 finalists in alphabetical order, so I'm not tipping you off to anything. So Greg was number 1. Grantley Keyser from the Courier Mail, another finalist. The judges said he was fearless as he ventured inside the heads of boxers, which is no mean feat, and inside the ring. His stories revealed the insecurities of Jeff Horn in particular, which is a brave thing to do. It was a strong mixture of both news breaking and inside reporting. And the 3rd finalist is Will Swanton from The Australian. Now, he's also been a finalist before, and it's worth mentioning here, sport's more difficult. It's a more difficult area to report than it once was. We've got microphones and cameras in every part of it. We've got analysis and explanation endlessly. In our view, Will managed to peel back the curtain and all that electronic smog around, I suppose, and take us into places where the cameras couldn't. He doesn't give you a backstage pass, he gives you a centre stage pass. His piece on Winx was considered by the judges to be magnificent. It came from a bloke who knew very little about racing, but he allowed you to almost smell the horses and understand the passion. So there's a bit of both in racing. So, ladies and gentlemen, the grand tradition of great Australian sports writing and sports journalism, I think continues, and I think it's something in which we should be proud. I'm sure there are many people in it who are enjoying it as much as people like Mick Gordon did and Harry Gordon did, and I've been lucky to do. I will ask Michael Gordon's wife, Robin Carter, to come to the stage and announce the winner very much this year in memory of both Harry and Mickey. Robin.
This year's winner is Will Swanton.
And Robin should be congratulated. We nearly had an Oscars moment there. She had the wrong envelope. Well done. Will, a few words. Will Swanton.
I have to admit, I'm truly kind of the whole sorry, the whole father-son thing with Harry and Michael, and also John. I actually met John. My first sporting assignments were covering the World Surfing Tour, which was a nice, relaxed introduction to the whole thing. I was a young reporter with AAP, and I went to Tahiti, which sounds very luxurious, but it was kind of a bit overwhelming, and I was didn't kind of really know where to go and who to talk to and everything else. And there was one guy, and it was honestly 12 years later when I realised who it was, because there was this true character on the tour called Gordo. And I think Gordo could tell that I was a bit apprehensive about the whole thing and a bit lost. And this incredible, big-hearted, caring, larger-than-life character with his shirt off, carrying his camera around, telling everyone. But he really kind of befriended me, and that was an incredible thing for Gordo to do. Now, I never actually knew Gordo's real name, and then years after that, I actually had the pleasure of meeting Harry, and then someone told me who was who and everything else, and I realised the connection there. I'm really kind of touched by the Harry and Michael story for a son following his father into journalism. My dad was my dear, beautiful dad, who's 80 now. He was my best mate all the way through. He's been my best mate all the way through life. And anyway, I followed him into journalism. And I still remember being a 15-year-old, and Dad was working for the Newcastle Herald, and he kind of got me a gig with a beautiful old guy called Wes Cornish doing Newcastle rugby matches on a Saturday afternoon. And I still remember Dad kind of driving me to all these matches. We'd stop at a phone box on the way home. I'd file my copy through and it was the greatest thrill. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and it wasn't yesterday, of seeing Dad read my stories the next day in the paper. And if it came out alright, he'd say top yarn, and that just made my. I'm 48 years old now, and like I said, Dad's 80, and I just love working for the Australian, for the paper I work for, and I love the whole industry. And every now and again, Dad will send me a text message saying top yarn, and it's as good as it was. And it's as good as it was back then, but I just really, the thought of a father and son in journalism it just really kind of starts to bring a tear to my eye, obviously. But I want to it is actually the greatest honour I've had in my career to get this award. I met Harry at the Sydney Olympics, and I was still at AAP then. Sorry if this is going too long. I'll be quick. But I was at AAP, and it was all kind of hurried and everything else. But it was at the end of a long day, and I was saying, gosh, it's so busy, Harry. We've got to follow the time, the deadlines, and this and that, and everything else. And Harry, and I remember just this such a kind of decent, beautiful, enthusiastic guy about the whole thing, and that Harry's physical resemblance to Dad was what kind of it got me talking to him incredibly like the nicely parted silver hair and decent stuff. Anyway, so I had a kind of a bit of a rant, and it's all so busy and I can't handle it, and deadlines, and oh my God. And Harry said to me, last thing he said to me was, don't ever forget to enjoy it, kind of thing. And I just thought that was, and there's been a lot of tours and a lot of, sport, like you say, it's just such a joy to cover. And if you love sport and if you love riding and you get to put those two together, for a job, there's so much passion and emotion and atmosphere in the whole thing, and it's just such a beautiful thing. But those, Harry always stood out to me, A, because he looks like Dad, B, those words, I don't know how many times I've actually remembered those words, funnily enough, don't ever forget to enjoy it. And so to be part of this with Bormy and Grantley, and just to kind of have any kind of role in all of this with something with the Gordon name on it is a thrill. So thanks very much.